In this video, we're going to take a look at inequalities, kind of an introduction to inequalities. How do we graph? How do we write? An inequality is a statement that two values are not necessarily equal. So the four symbols, we have a greater than, we have a greater than or equal, we have a less than, and we have a less than or equal to. So these are the four basic inequality symbols that make up all the work we do with inequalities. So if I give you something like x is greater than or equal to 8, it means that we're going to look at a number line. We're going to possibly start at 8. Think about this being 7, 6, 5, go greater, 9, 10, 11, 12. What are the values that are larger than 8? Well, wouldn't it be 9, 10, 11, 12? Okay. So how we go about graphing these is to form a solid line with an arrow at the end facing in the direction. At the 8, we're going to put a circle. So whatever number is here, we're going to put a circle at that number. Okay. There are going to be two types of circles. There's going to be an open circle, which is going to use if a value is going to be greater than or less than. And there's something called a closed circle, which we're going to use if it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. So if a number can equal something, so for example, it's x is greater than or equal to 8. Since it can equal 8, we are going to just shade in that circle. So what this bar is showing us is that beginning at 8, my solution could be 8, or it could be anything greater than 8. If I told you that x was less than 3, once again, I would begin with a number line. I usually put 3 in the center, 4, 5, 6, go less, 2, 1, 0. If x is less than 3, I'm going to start at 3. Since it cannot equal, it's less than, I'm going to leave this being open, and since that's less than, I'm going to put it in the direction. One little hint is if the variable is on the left side, the arrow of the inequality should match the arrow of you graphing it. So for example, the less than looks like this, so that's how my arrow looks. But that only holds if the variable is on the left side. So for example, if I told you that 5 is greater than x, I can rewrite this as x is less than 5. And it means the same thing. But what you'll notice is I had to take the inequality sign and I had to switch it so that the smaller side, the pointed side, was still facing the x. And then I would graph it 5 quickly. I would put my number at 5. It'd be open since it doesn't equal. And my arrow would need to face this way because that's my inequality. And then I would shade it right in. Okay. And I tend to write just on the number line. Feel free to use a colored marker or colored pencil so that way it's clearly visible. When we talk about what a solution to an inequality is, if I tell you that x plus 1 is greater than 4, and I might give you 6, I might give you -2, and I might give you something 3. And I say, are any of these solutions? So then I would need to plug them in. What's 6 plus 1? It's 7. Is that greater than 4? Yes, so that checks. So this would be a solution. 6 would be a solution. Is negative 2 a solution? Well, is negative 2 plus 1 is going to be negative 1. Is negative 1 greater than 4? No, so that would not be a solution. And then I would take 3. What's 3 plus 4? Or 3 plus 1, sorry. Whoa. 3 plus 1, is that going to be greater than 4? Well, is 4 greater than 4? This would be a no, because 4 is equal to 4. At the same token, if it was 3 plus 1 greater than or equal to 4, I would get 4 is greater than or equal to 4, which is true. Okay. So this is a little bit of a brief introduction to inequalities, to graphing inequalities, to how do we write inequalities. Okay. There's some terminology which we're going to have to begin to work at in terms of at least and more than and greater than. Okay, all those wonderful terminologies. The clear best thing to do is to think in terms of the number. If you have to have at least something, you have to have something that's greater. But if you have to have at least 3, well, then what would you have to have? You'd have to have 4, you'd have to have 5, you'd have to have 6. So always think in terms of the numbers. What would my answer be?